But first, before we get to the joys of Belconnen and beautiful Canberra, let us have a look at some of the day's news, including Airbus Albo is up and away yet again. Now, of course, these are important, vital meetings for our country. And for anyone who ever says he goes on too many of them, shame on you. Like, how dare you say that, of course, when the president had no idea who he or the ambassador was when it comes to the United States last week? How dare you mention that the media played along and didn't tell us where his overseas holiday was for a week before that? How dare you say, when discussing Airbus Albo, that this Prime Minister is enjoying plenty overseas when he doesn't do much here, including speaking to an empty room at the United Nations, a personal favourite of mine. Airbus Albo, of course, just this year. Remember when he spent 17 of 30 days out of the country? Well, of course he had to bring booze to meetings with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom at his place, because, you know, Barry McKenzie, 21st century, what a great look. How dare you say this man travels too much? He had to see pandas in China. This man is a busy beaver. This man had to address the Labor conference in the United Kingdom. He had to wear the wrong shirt at the Pacific Island Forum. He had to go to Papua New Guinea, where we are going to build $100 million renovation to the Papua New Guinean Parliament. Of course, we're also paying for a football team up there in the next little while. So anyone who says this overseas stuff isn't vital to the people of the suburbs of Australia, then you, my friends, of course, as always, are part of the problem. The latest of these, of course, is up and away again, off to Malaysia, where he's going to be at a Gibberfest that I don't know why it's any different than the other 500 that he's had this year. South Korea after that. But interestingly, perhaps there is a little sign about how cocky the Prime Minister is, knowing how secured in the job he is after the federal election and after a compliant media says, of course, for security reasons, we want to say a detail of where you were in your secret Micronesian holiday, as opposed to every moment of what was happening with previous Prime Ministers overseas. We turn to that far right-wing section of the far right-wing newspaper, The Financial Review, and the Rear Window section that's noticed the Prime Minister's now, you know, got so many, tickets to on himself that he can give a few away to a Taylor Swift concert, but he's still able to remain very confident in himself. Why? Because he's doing something most Prime Ministers don't do. In fact, let me follow the bouncing ball here. Albanese seems hyper-attuned to what things look like. And so for some time now, he has been whinging to the travelling media about their insistence on filming him getting on and off the plane. I mean, this is tough stuff for the Prime Minister, right? These are commonly known as arrival and departure shots. Now, let's be honest, the reason people do this is because there might be a Joe Biden falling up the stairs moment, but still, free flight, you're going around the world. OK, here he is, walking in, walking off. Now, we've heard that on the past 3 trips, the Prime Minister has complained about having to wear a suit while getting on and off the taxpayer-funded plane to the pandas, to the UK Prime Minister's office, and now, yet again, off to meeting with Asian leaders. And he's asked the media, why can't they just use file footage? Well, as you see here, missed the chance for the Prime Minister to slip arse over tit? No, thank you. Again, that language is in the Financial Review. I mean, how downgrade has that got? Swearing in a newspaper, goodness me. Because having landed on Thursday following his line flight home from Washington, guess what? He was wearing a T-shirt and he went, bugger it, I'm still going to wear the T-shirt when I come off the plane because wearing the suit just pisses me off. Perhaps we should start the No Kings rallies here in Australia. This man is very comfortable, going all around the world, doing it on your dollar, representing everyone here, there and everywhere, and just getting rid of the inconvenience of wearing a suit while he gets on and off Toto 1. Now, so I stand by the Airbus Albo line here, despite the fact that apparently he does not care for it, doesn't think it's true, doesn't think that it rubs well with normal people. Well, again, he has turned up in Malaysia, as I mentioned tonight. He was actually there after Donald Trump turned up in Malaysia tonight. And unlike Donald Trump, there was no dancing from our Prime Minister. This was the Trumpster in Malaysia. Jeff, can you take a wide shot of the audience here? Give me some Trump dancing, everyone. Show me how you do it. Show me. Do you do a little Trumpy? All right, that's good. Excellent. Good to see. Notice my mum wasn't moving at all in the front row there. Fair enough. Somebody who's never met me was participating. The one who's known me my whole life goes, I'm not doing that, son. I love your mum, always with us on In Our Town. Now, also talking about the Prime Minister, and just, I mean, it is frustrating for him. The media is so unfair to him, right? Now, as I told you, media relationship during the election campaign was giving him the free pass. The hunt was on for all things to do with disaster. And, of course, the result of the election went the way that it did. The media, of course, last week were just acting more like stenographers for the greatest Prime Minister of all time with their descriptions of how successful the meeting was with the man who I still believe does not know who he is, certainly who Rudd is. But again, you remember the media.
The Prime Minister ready to go face-to-face with Donald Trump.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Donald Trump.
For the Prime Minister Albanese.
A warm welcome to our Prime Minister in Washington.
A triumph. Well, this media, that as we know, when they want to get into a process story of who knew what and when, they become Canberra Columbos. They can pick up the magnifying glass and follow up and down the halls to find out who knew what and when. But this is the very same media who, remember, agreed to say nothing about what the Prime Minister was doing on his holiday for 7 days. Now, again, do I give a stuff as whether he was on holidays or not? No. But the idea that for national security reasons we didn't know anything about the trip, bullshit. It was just because you don't want to displease the dear leader. Well, today, news stories started to appear about exactly what was happening during his week away. Pictures of this and pictures of that. Isn't that a perfect example of how it works? Do not displease the machine, and the machine will toss you a few crumbs. You put the crumbs in the right combination, you will continue getting the crumbs from the Prime Minister's office. But interestingly, that only thing that was memorable of the back and forth in Washington last week was, of course, the former Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd, and I know this room's very supportive of him as the ambassador to the United States, and we all know what happens. Boom, boom. Well, we've after the first moment and then him all being forgiven, Trump in the past couple of days was asked, and again now says that he's not forgetting because, again, he doesn't know who these people are, right? So he has two settings, right? There's the love setting or there's the ass-kicking setting, right? And you either fall into one of these or the other, which meant, yet again, we are still talking about this as many days after, and I'm starting a new week of shows talking about what we talked about last week.
I think he said a long time ago something bad. Yeah. You know, when they say bad about me, I don't forget.
Now, when the Prime Minister was asked about the awkward exchange inside the meeting and the President still changing his position, dare I say each way elbowing, his position about Kevin Rudd, this was the Prime Minister blaming the media.
Do you need to sub Kevin Rudd out?
No. Frankly, it says more about the journo than it does who asked the question than anything else. I was in the room. It was fine.
Now, don't you like the way that this works? Now, again, we're taking fun, we're taking the piss, we're having some fun. But I believe there should be a relatively adversarial relationship between those who cover something and those who are doing the reporting. Why? Because they are the people who are the only people who can look our leaders in the eye and call BS each and every day. But when unlimited overseas travel is only ever a triumph, when you stay quiet about the holiday in exchange for the ongoing access from the media, when you don't ask the one question that may well embarrass the Prime Minister because it is one on the minds of millions of Australians, that's how access works. Now, this is not the first Prime Minister to invent it, but he's certainly probably the best of this century at perfecting it. And people know that you don't want to upset the machine. On bigger and wider issues, this is why I've talked about that triangle of dependence, right? How you end up with, well, hang on, how does Victoria keep sending the same people back all the time? Because you work for the government, you are dependent on the government when it comes to the handout, or if you're in private sector, your biggest customer is the government. Perfect example there. And rather than turning around and saying, hang on, the issue is not the question, the issue is that there was the information there for the question to be asked. And of course, Andrew Connell is big enough to stand up on his own 2 feet, but I thought a little example worth showing you about what it is like to even tinsy, wincy, rock the boat and about how they punish you.